My grandmother passed away at the age of 107, but no one cried. Not because we didn't love her, but because her leaving was like the last leaf falling in autumn, quiet, natural, complete. She lived in a small village tucked between soft hills and quiet streams. She never read books on medicine. She never learned about nutrition, metabolism, or the immune system. But she knew when to eat, she knew when to rest, and somehow she knew how to stay healthy without needing pills, doctors, or fear. When I was a child, she told me, eat less when the world is noisy, sleep deeper when the heart is still. Move every day and nothing inside you will stay stuck. I didn't understand. I thought health came from experts, charts, and complicated answers. But now, after years of studying the body and training the mind, I've come to realize my first true teacher of health was her. She didn't try to live long, she tried to live well. And in doing so, life stayed with her for 107 springs. In this journey, I want to share with you what she left behind. Not wealth, not secrets, but 8 simple ways of living that kept her strong, light, and clear, all the way until her last breath. This is not a medical lecture. This is a remembering of how health used to be and how it can still be, not forced, not feared, but chosen with presence. Let's walk together, one story at a time. When I was a boy, I used to wonder why my grandmother's meals were so small. Just a bowl of warm rice, some steamed greens, occasionally a slice of tofu or a boiled egg. No sauces, no sugar, no excitement. Yet somehow every bite felt sacred, like it mattered. One evening I asked her, "Why do you eat so little?" She smiled without answering. Instead, she placed a tiny grain of rice in my palm and whispered, "This becomes you." I didn't understand, but now, after decades of practice, I do. We often believe health is about more protein, more vitamins, more supplements, but in truth, the body, especially as it ages, doesn't need more, it needs less done right. My grandmother never followed diets, she didn't count calories, she didn't fast or detox, she simply followed the rhythm of the seasons and the rhythm of her own body. In the summer, she ate lighter. In the winter, more warming foods. She didn't eat when angry. She didn't snack mindlessly. She sat down, bowed her head, and chewed slowly, as if in prayer. Modern science now explains what she somehow knew intuitively, that digestion slows with age, that overeating taxes the body, that simple, seasonal foods support the gut, the mind, and longevity. But she didn't need research, she had awareness. "Don't feed your fear," she once told me. "Eat with joy or not at all." For her, food wasn't comfort, it wasn't reward, it was nourishment, physical and spiritual. She believed that how you eat is just as important as what you eat, and that to age well, we must learn to listen to our stomach, to our breath, to our state of mind. When she cooked, it was always quiet. No TV, no noise, just the rhythm of the knife, the breath of the steam, the scent of ginger and greens. Each movement was intentional. Each bowl was enough, not too much, never too little, just enough. At 90, she still walked to the market by herself. At 100, she still grew her own vegetables. At 105, she still taught me how to ferment cabbage. Not because she chased youth, but because she never weighed her body down with excess. I've met many people who live with the fear of aging, but what they fear is not aging, it's heaviness, heavy joints, heavy digestion, heavy regrets, and so they try to add more pills, more routines, more extremes. But what if the secret is not adding, but subtracting? My grandmother's diet was the same in her 60s as in her hundreds. Balanced, modest, joyful. She never skipped meals, but she never ate out of boredom. She never feared food, but she never let it control her. And now, as I grow older, I've come to follow the same way. I eat less than I used to, but I taste more, I chew longer, I feel fuller, not in my belly, but in my being. Eat like a whisper, she once said, and your body will never shout. Aging does not mean losing vitality, it means learning how to sustain it differently. And food, real, quiet food, is one of the purest forms of medicine, if we let it be. Next time you eat, ask yourself, am I feeding my body or feeding my habits? Am I honoring the food or escaping something inside? A small bowl, eaten with peace, can nourish far deeper than a feast eaten in chaos. My grandmother lived 107 years, but truly she lived one simple truth: eat to live, don't live to eat. And that made all the difference. My grandmother never went to a gym, she never exercised. Yet her spine was straight until the day she left this world. She didn't stretch because a book told her to. She didn't walk because a doctor advised it. She simply moved every day with purpose, with presence. At sunrise, she swept the courtyard. She watered the plants. She carried buckets of water from the well. She walked to the village market, slowly but steadily. Each step was a prayer, each motion a quiet harmony with the world around her. She once told me, your body is like a stream. Let it flow every day or it will grow still and heavy. As we age, we are told to slow down, to sit more, to rest more, but stillness without movement becomes stagnation. The body doesn't ask for intensity, it asks for consistency. And my grandmother offered it day after day with grace. Modern research confirms what she practiced all her life, that light, regular movement improves circulation, supports balance, and preserves mobility in the elderly. That walking after meals aids digestion, that squatting, reaching, bending, movements we call ordinary, are, in truth, profound medicine. But for her, it wasn't about fitness, it was about being part of life. When she cooked, she stood tall. When she sat with dignity. When she moved through the house, it was like wind passing through bamboo, effortless, gentle, and full of presence. I remember watching her in the garden. She would pick weeds, prune herbs, and carry vegetables in a woven basket. No rush, no multitasking, just full attention to the earth, to the breath, to the moment. I don't move to stay young, she once said. I move to stay open. She believed that motion wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. A stiff body to her was often the sign of a stiff heart, and so she laughed often. She danced slowly when no one was watching. She stretched her arms to the sky in the morning and thanked the sun, not as ritual, but as remembrance. I've seen many elderly people become prisoners of their chairs, trapped by the belief that aging means shrinking. But my grandmother never shrank. She expanded through motion, breath, and attention. To her, every part of the body had a reason to move. The fingers to knead dough, the shoulders to hang laundry, the legs to walk to the river, the eyes to watch birds, clouds, and children playing. Her movement was not a task. It was a way of staying in rhythm with the pulse of life. Today, people ask me, what kind of exercise should I do as I get older? And I always return to her wisdom. Move like the wind, not like the storm, gently, consistently, with joy. If your body allows, walk after each meal, stand and stretch after sitting, bend to touch the earth, turn your neck to greet the horizon, not to burn calories, but to remain part of the flow of life. The muscles remember, the bones respond. The breath becomes deeper, the heart lighter. My grandmother moved every day, not because she feared death, but because she loved being alive. She lived 107 years with joints that didn't ache, with knees that didn't fail, not because she trained like an athlete, but because she never stopped dancing with the world around her. Aging is not an invitation to freeze, it is an invitation to become more fluid, more aware, more embodied. Let your body move like a poem, not fast, not forced, but full of meaning. Even now when I walk, I sometimes hear her voice. If you can move, you can heal. If you can walk, you can return home to yourself. And so I walk, not to go anywhere, but to remember the quiet, healing wisdom of a woman who never stopped moving. My grandmother always went to bed early. When the sun disappeared behind the mountains, so did her day. She didn't wait for sleep. She welcomed it like an old friend coming home. She had no television in her room, no phone by her pillow, no pills in her drawer, just a thin cotton blanket, a quiet breath, and the kind of stillness that only comes from a peaceful heart. "Let the day go," she once whispered to me. "If you carry it into the night, it will follow you into your dreams." And she meant it. She never brought arguments to bed. She never carried regrets under her blanket. If there was something to forgive, she did it before the stars arrived. If there was something to cry about, she let the tears fall before the first cricket sang. To her, sleep was not a break. It was a ritual, a sacred return to balance. Modern science tells us that older adults often struggle with sleep, falling asleep, staying asleep, waking too early. But what it rarely tells us is this: sleep is not just about the body. It is about what the mind refuses to release. My grandmother slept like a stone in a river, not because her body was perfect, but because her spirit was light. She kept no clock near her bed. She let her body decide when enough was enough. She didn't try to control sleep. She surrendered to it, and in that surrender, her body found its deepest healing. She believed sleep was not a task to complete. It was a return to stillness, to softness, to the silence beneath all things. Even during storms, outside or inside, she closed her eyes with trust. Trust that the morning would come or not, and either was okay. "Don't chase tomorrow with a tired heart," she said. "Rest and let the world turn without you for a while." Today, many people take sleep for granted until they can't find it. They treat it like a switch they can flip after too much caffeine, too much worry, or too much scrolling. But sleep doesn't respond to force. It responds to rhythm, to peace, to preparation. My grandmother's preparation was simple: a cup of warm water, a few minutes watching the sky darken, and a heart free of weight. She believed that the way you end your day is how your soul travels through the night. No revenge bedtime procrastination, no carrying unfinished business into the silence, just presence and release. I remember once asking her, "Do you ever wake up at night?" She smiled, "Sometimes." But I just listen to the night breathing, and then I join it. Even her wakefulness was peaceful. That's the difference between rest and escape. Rest is chosen, escape is forced. As I grow older, I now understand that sleep is not a break from life. It is part of life, the place where healing happens quietly, where memories reorganize, where the nervous system softens, where the immune system repairs, but only if we allow it. So I invite you tonight not to go to sleep, but to return to rest. Not to fix anything, but to lay it all down. Let the arguments stay outside your room. Let the news turn itself off. Let your breath lead you inward. Place a hand on your chest. Feel it rise and fall. And remember, you are not meant to carry the world through the night. Let sleep take you, not as something you've earned, but as something you've always deserved. My grandmother lived 107 years, but it was how she slept each night that kept her alive so deeply. Sleep, she told me once, is how the soul exhales. And so every night she did. My grandmother had the gentlest smile, not wide, not loud, just soft, like the smile of someone who had already forgiven everything, even before it happened. I never saw her complain, not about the weather, not about her body, not about people. Even when her hands stiffened with age or her knees made her sit down slower, she smiled, as if her body was simply whispering, "Take it slow." And she listened. "Getting older doesn't make the heart heavy," she once said. "Holding on does." She believed that what we carry inside, anger, resentment, worry, weighs more than any illness, and that many people are not tired from age, but from the emotions they never released. Science now tells us that long-term stress increases inflammation, weakens immunity, and accelerates aging. But she didn't need a research paper to know this. She could see it on people's faces, the tight jaws, the hard eyes, the hunched shoulders. She believed peace wasn't something you found, but something you practiced. Each morning, she would sit by the window, sip warm water, and breathe. She never called it meditation. She just said, "Let the night leave me before the day begins." If someone upset her, she didn't fight back. She didn't store the story in her heart. She let it pass, like wind through bamboo. You don't have to catch every word someone throws at you, she said. Some things are meant to pass right through. I watched her forgive people who never apologized. I watched her stay kind to those who forgot her. She didn't do it to be noble, she did it to stay free, and that freedom, I believe, kept her young. She didn't live with grudges, she didn't replay arguments, she didn't expect others to change. She simply chose not to carry what didn't belong in her heart. That doesn't mean she never felt pain. She did, but she didn't cling to it. She gave her pain space and then let it breathe out. As we age, the body asks for rest, but so does the heart. And rest is not only about sleep, it's about not dragging emotional weights from one season of life into another. I've seen people in their 70s feel older than those in their 90s, not because of their bodies, but because of the stories they won't let go. Don't let your mind become a storage room, she warned me. Empty it out every night, just like the day's trash. She laughed often, but never loudly. Her laughter was quiet and honest. It didn't come from jokes. It came from noticing something simple and beautiful. A sparrow on the fence, a leaf falling, a child's question. That kind of joy, the quiet kind, is powerful. It nourishes from the inside. It keeps the nervous system calm. It reminds the body that life is still worth smiling at. People today are often afraid of emotional pain, so they hide it, distract from it, bury it. But buried emotions rot. They become tension in the back, pressure in the chest, fatigue in the bones. My grandmother faced her emotions like she faced her garden, with patience, gentleness, and no rush. If something hurt, she sat with it. If something angered her, she let it cool before speaking. If she cried, she didn't wipe the tears too quickly. She allowed her heart to feel, but she never let it drown. That emotional balance, that clarity, was her medicine. No pills for anxiety, no need for therapy. She simply stayed present with herself and kind to the world. Now, in my own path as a teacher and practitioner, I see how rare and powerful that is. A calm mind can soften chronic pain. A forgiving heart can lower blood pressure. And a gentle spirit can do what no medication can. Keep the soul young. My grandmother's body aged, but her presence, it stayed clear, open, and light. Old is not hard, she told me. Old is soft if you let it be. And so she softened every day until even death felt gentle. My grandmother lived alone for the last 30 years of her life. No husband, no children in the house, only her, a small wooden home, and the soft rhythms of nature. And yet, she was never lonely. Every morning, she opened her door and greeted the sky. She spoke to the wind, she smiled at the sparrows, she waved at neighbors walking by, even if they didn't see her. She didn't wait for connection, she offered it. If your heart is open, she once said, you will never lack company. Many elders fear loneliness, and rightly so. Modern life often separates generations, isolates the elderly, and praises independence while neglecting interdependence. But my grandmother had no social media, no phone full of messages. What she had was presence. She remembered the names of children in the village. She brought tea to the man who swept the street. She kept hard candy in a tin for when the neighbors' kids came over. Simple gestures, but they kept her world warm. Research tells us that social connection reduces the risk of cognitive decline, depression, and even heart disease in older adults. But connection doesn't always mean conversation. Sometimes it just means being seen and seeing others. And my grandmother saw people. She noticed when the baker looked tired. She knew when someone was grieving, even if they said nothing. She made others feel that their presence mattered, even in silence. In return, she received what cannot be forced: trust, warmth, belonging. I remember one winter, a boy from the village left a small drawing at her doorstep. It said, "Thank you for always smiling at me." She kept it for years. "If you want love, don't chase it," she said. "Just become a place where love likes to rest." She didn't fear being alone because she had made peace with herself. She listened to her own breath as if it were an old friend. She sat in stillness, not out of boredom, but out of contentment. and when she laughed, it was from a joy that didn't need an audience. Loneliness, she believed, came not from the absence of people, but from the absence of connection to life itself. So she connected to the soil under her hands, to the cat that wandered into her yard, to the sound of the bamboo brushing against the roof when the wind was strong. Her world was small, but she was not, because her heart reached out and in. I've met many older students who feel isolated, even in busy cities. I always ask them, have you looked someone in the eyes today, not as a stranger, but as a fellow human? You don't need deep conversations to feel connected, you just need deep presence. My grandmother was not social in the modern sense, but she was deeply relational. She cared, she noticed, she gave, and so she was never truly alone. As we age, our social circles may shrink, friends pass, family moves away, but what remains is our ability to extend warmth, a smile to the store clerk, a kind word to the delivery man, a short note to a neighbor, a gentle hello to a passing child. These are not small things, they are threads, and enough threads make a net that can hold us. Connection is not something you have, she told me. It's something you practice, and she practiced it daily. That practice kept her spirit vibrant. Even as her body slowed, her heart stayed active, because it was still in relationship, not just to people, but to life. She tended her garden like a conversation. She poured tea as if welcoming an old guest. She listened to the birds like they were telling her stories. And so, even on quiet days when no one knocked, she felt full. When she passed at 107, the village came, not because she was famous, but because she had been present to herself, to others, to life. So if you feel alone, start by offering your presence, not your opinions, not your stories, just your presence. Someone will feel it, even if they say nothing, and that is how loneliness begins to fade. My grandmother never owned a diary. She didn't write things down. She never asked me to remind her of names, dates, or recipes. And yet she remembered everything, not because her brain was sharp, but because her presence was deep. If you live fully in the moment, she once said, the moment will never leave you. She remembered the smell of a certain tree from her childhood. She remembered the exact words my grandfather whispered to her before he passed. She remembered who liked sweet rice and who preferred it plain, even after 20 years. Her memory didn't come from mental effort. It came from mindfulness, from being awake to each sound, scent, word, and face. Today, we fear memory loss as we age. And yes, it's real. The brain changes, neurons slow, names slip. We forget where we placed the keys or why we entered the room. But what if part of memory is not just biology, but intimacy with life? My grandmother didn't multitask. When she spoke with you, she looked into your eyes. When she cooked, she focused on the rice, not on a screen. When she walked, she noticed each leaf beneath her feet. In doing so, the world stayed with her. I believe memory is not just something stored in the mind, but something stored in the breath, the senses, the body. You can't remember what you never truly lived, she told me. So live slower and memory will stay longer. When I asked how she remembered so much, she laughed. I don't. I just never forgot. That was her way of saying she lived so deeply in each moment, there was no need to chase the past. It came with her. Modern science supports this. Mindfulness practices can improve cognitive function, reduce age-related decline, and support emotional clarity. Meditation increases gray matter density in areas of the brain linked to memory and attention. But she didn't know any of that. She just sat quietly every day, not trying to meditate, just breathing, just being. She would close her eyes and rest her hands in her lap, 10 minutes, 20, sometimes more. She didn't try to silence her mind. She simply watched it until it settled on its own. And in that stillness, she seemed to gather herself, to collect every piece of who she was, scattered through the tasks of the day, and bring them home. Stillness is the memory of the soul, she said. As I began teaching meditation to others, I noticed something. Those who practiced stillness, even just a little, tended to remember more, not just facts, but feelings, not just appointments, but moments that mattered. Memory, you see, is not just about storing, it's about savoring. And my grandmother savored life, a bowl of warm congee, the laughter of a neighbor, the way sunlight moved through the kitchen window. These became her memories, not because she captured them, but because she received them completely. I remember once she forgot the day of the week. She laughed. "The days blur when the heart is full," she said. She didn't fear forgetfulness because she didn't tie her worth to performance. She tied it to presence. In a world obsessed with productivity, we forget the mind doesn't want more information. It wants depth, fewer things, more fully lived. So if you wish to keep your memory alive as you age, don't rush to do more. Slow down. Feel the water when you wash your hands. Listen, truly listen, when someone speaks. Eat without distraction. Sit with your breath once a day, even if only for 5 minutes. Let the moment enter you, so it never needs to be chased later. My grandmother became a living library, not because she collected knowledge, but because she paid attention. Even now, I hear her voice. Not because I try, but because she spoke with such presence, her words never left me. "Let life touch you gently," she once said. That way, even when memories fade, you will still feel whole. And in that she was right. Each morning, my grandmother woke before the sun. She lit a small candle, boiled water, swept the floor with quiet hands, and smiled as if the day had already given her something. She never rushed. She never needed a plan. Yet she moved with the certainty of someone who had a reason to rise. "One simple act of kindness," she once said, "is enough reason to wake up." Many people, as they grow older, begin to feel invisible. Their careers are done. Their children have their own lives. Their bodies move slower, and the world no longer asks them to hurry. But what the world forgets, and what my grandmother knew, is that value has nothing to do with speed. She wasn't busy, but she was full of meaning. She didn't look for purpose in grand gestures. She found it in small things. Planting seeds, folding cloth, humming to the sky. Even in her 90s, she said, "If I can help one person feel seen today, I've lived well." Modern studies show that a sense of purpose increases longevity, reduces depression, and strengthens immunity in older adults. But science is only confirming what the wise have always lived. Purpose does not need a title. It needs only a direction. A reason that points the heart toward life. My grandmother never used the word purpose. She simply lived it. When she cooked, it was to nourish others. When she walked, it was to greet the day. When she sat in silence, it was to thank the breath that still visited her. She believed that being alive was in itself a gift and a responsibility, not to prove anything, not to fix the world, but to offer something good, no matter how small. Even a smile is medicine, she would say. Even listening is a gift. I once asked her, "What do you live for now?" She looked at her hands. She rubbed a wrinkle with her thumb and said, "To leave nothing behind in my heart. That is enough." As we age, the outer roles we used to play begin to fade. Parent, worker, provider, leader, and it can feel like identity is dissolving. But she taught me this: you are not what you do. You are the presence behind what you offer, and presence never gets old. Even in silence, she gave. Her stillness made others feel calm. Her attention made others feel valued. Her being reminded others how to slow down. This is purpose, not a goal to chase, but a light to carry. In the West, people often ask, "How can I find my purpose in old age?" I say, don't search, simplify. Let your purpose be to touch the world gently, to show others how to age with grace, to pass down wisdom not through advice, but through example. My grandmother never taught in words. She taught in the way she drank tea, in the way she held the broom, in the way she listened without interrupting. And I watched, and I learned, and I still remember. You see, when the world stops asking what you can do, ask yourself what you can still give, because that giving is what keeps the soul vibrant, even if it's just warmth, even if it's just presence, even if it's just a prayer whispered quietly before bed. I am still breathing, she said, so I can still bless the world. Not everyone may hear you, not everyone may notice, but the world is changed by quiet hands, gentle eyes, and kind elders who keep showing up. That's the purpose no one can take away. She lived 107 years, but what mattered more was that every day she asked herself, what can I offer today? And she did, again and again, and until the very last one. My grandmother didn't fear death. She spoke of it the same way she spoke of autumn, not as an end, but as a season that comes when it is time. I am not leaving, she once told me. I am returning. In her final days, there was no resistance. No hospital room, no machines. She lay on her mat beneath the window where the morning sun touched her feet. She breathed slowly, she smiled gently, and one morning, she didn't wake up. There was no struggle, only stillness, like a candle that knows when its flame has given enough light. She was 107, but numbers meant little to her. What mattered was that she had emptied her heart. No grudges, no regrets, no holding on. She used to say, when you live light, you can leave light. And she did. People came from the village, not to mourn, but to remember. They didn't cry loudly, they sat quietly, sharing stories of how she had touched their lives with the smallest of acts. A warm bowl of soup, a kind glance, a word spoken at just the right moment. She left no possessions behind, but she left presence in the way she lived and the way she died. I think of her often, especially when leaves begin to fall. There is one that always lingers a little longer on the branch. It turns golden, not in a rush, but gracefully. And when it lets go, it does not fall, it floats. That was her. Dying is not the opposite of living, she said. It is the final expression of it. And now, when I teach, when I walk, when I sit in silence, I carry her with me. Not as memory, but as rhythm. She didn't die. She returned to the earth, to the sky, to every act of gentle presence.